The black market was hidden deep inside the wrecked remains of an old cargo station on the edge of the dead moon. Its air smelled like rust, smoke, and fear. Shadows moved between broken stalls. Strange creatures whispered, lights flickered. It wasn't a place for honest people. It was a place for buying and selling things that should never be sold. People traded stolen tech, illegal weapons, and sometimes living beings. Dax walked slowly through the dark market. He was human, tall, with worn boots and a thick coat full of patches. His face was tired. He didn't come to buy. He came to trade a broken plasma cutter for some food. That was the plan. But then he saw her. She was sitting on the cold metal floor, chained at the ankles. Small, thin, her skin a pale blue with soft silver markings glowing faintly across her neck and arms. Her violet eyes didn't blink. She just stared at the ground. Her white dress was torn and dirty, more like a rag than clothing. Her long, silver hair was tangled like wires. A fat alien trader with 6 eyes and greasy fingers stood beside her. He laughed. This one. Rotten goods, the trader shouted, waving a wrinkled piece of fruit. I traded her for this worthless thing. No one wants broken aliens. Won't even speak. No records. No tags. She's trash. Dax stopped, something twisted in his chest. Trash? No, not even close. He stepped closer, his voice calm. What's wrong with her? The trader sneered. Too soft. Too scared. Probably from a lab, maybe royalty, maybe not. Who cares? She's useless. You want her? Take her. I just want her out of my space. The girl didn't move. She didn't. Look up. She just sat there like a statue, as if she had given up on being alive. Other buyers passed by, not even glancing at her. She doesn't talk, Dax asked. No, the trader spat. And if she does, it's not in any language my translator picks up. She's dead weight. We'll even throw in the chain if you want. Dax didn't answer. He crouched down slowly in front of her, careful not to scare her. Hey, he said gently. You hurt? So you didn't move? I won't touch you, he added softly. Just look at me. Taro. Still no answer, but for a moment, just a second, her eyes flicked up toward him. And in that one glance, Dax saw something. Not fear. Not anger. But deep sadness, like she had forgotten what hope felt like. Dax stood up. I'll take her, he said. The trader looked confused. Take her. What are you going to pay? She's not even worth. Dax held out his last working tool, an old half-functional plasma cutter. This, the trader laughed. That old thing? You're serious? Dax didn't answer. Fine, the trader grunted. She's your problem now. No refunds. No help. You walk out of here with her. You're on your own. He. The chain had tossed it aside like garbage. Dax stepped forward, removing his coat, and gently placed it around the alien girl's thin shoulders. Come on, he said quietly. Let's get you out of here. She didn't fight. She didn't speak, but she stood, slowly, like her legs had forgotten how. Dax guided her through the market. Some laughed, some pointed. Others whispered, what's he going to do with that thing? Dax ignored them all. Outside, the cold wind of the dead moon bit into his skin. He walked fast, holding her close so she wouldn't fall. She didn't thank him, didn't even look at him. But her fingers gripped his sleeve very softly. It was enough. They reached his shelter, small storage unit hidden behind collapsed. Towers inside was a blanket, a heater, and some cans of food. It wasn't much, but it was safe. He helped her sit. She didn't speak. What's your name? He asked. No answer. Do you understand me? Still nothing. He sighed, pulled out a can, and handed it to her. She looked at it like it was from another world. Food, he said. After a long pause, she took it slowly, like she expected it to be a trick. She ate quietly, sitting against the wall, still wrapped in his coat. Dax didn't push her. Just watched. That night, as he lay down on the floor, he couldn't sleep. The market, the laughter, the look in her eyes, it all replayed in his mind. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why was she treated like garbage? But the biggest question of all, why did he care so much? Asterisk, no one understood why he did it. Dax had passed dozens of traders that day, hundreds of items he could have traded for parts, weapons, food, but instead, he gave away his last working tool for a broken girl who never spoke, never smiled, and didn't even look him in the eyes. People whispered. They said he had lost his mind. Others thought he was using her for something dark. Some just laughed. Humans love saving lost things, they said, even if the thing doesn't want to be saved. But Dax didn't care what they said. He didn't bring her home to be used. He brought her home because she looked like no one had ever been kind to her before. The small shelter where Dax lived was built from scrap and welded dreams. A metal roof, 2 thin walls, and 1 dusty heater. It wasn't much, but for someone who had spent nights in cages, it felt like a castle. She sat in the corner, knees to her chest, still wearing his coat. Her glowing violet eyes watched every move he made, not with trust, but with quiet fear. Like a wild creature unsure if the trap had already closed, Dax placed a cup of water near her. "I don't know your name," he said, "but mine's." Dax, no answer. "That coat," he said, pointing gently. "You can keep it. I don't need it more than you." Still silent, he sat down, far from her, not facing her directly. He knew better than to push. Silence, in her world, was probably safer than sound. So he talked not to her, but near her, about the things he scavenged, about the strange windstorms on the moon, about the stars that flickered blue during solar storms. She didn't reply, but every once in a while, she blinked slower, like she was listening. That night, he gave her a blanket, his last, clean one, and lay on the floor near the door with just his jacket. It was freezing. The moon's cold bit through the walls like teeth, around midnight. Dax woke with a shiver. She was standing beside him, barefoot, silent, still wrapped in his coat. He sat up slowly, careful not to scare her. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and for the first time he noticed a strange shimmer under her skin, like energy pulsing from her bones. Not human, not even close. She didn't speak, but her hand. It moved. Very gently she touched his arm, just for a moment. Her fingers were cold, but the touch was soft. Not to hurt him, not to take. But like she was checking if he was real, then she pulled away and returned to her corner. Curling under the blanket without a word, Dax didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, Dax went out for supplies. When he returned, he saw something strange. She had cleaned the space. The blanket was folded, the water cup washed. Even the floor had been swept with an old cloth. Dax didn't say anything. He just smiled a little and placed down 2 packets of ration bars. "I got something better than metal today," he said, lifting a can of soft food. "I traded old wires for this. Real flavor? Maybe not good flavor, but real." He handed it to her. This time, she took it with both hands. Still no words, but she looked up at him, just briefly, and then back down. Progressed later that day. Dax connected his old scanner to a portable battery and tried to scan her wrist, looking for ID. Species code, anything, nothing came up. "Strange," he muttered. "You don't exist in the system." Her head tilted slightly, curious. He turned the scanner toward himself. It beeped, showing his info. Then he turned it back to her. "No. Signal. No name. No record. You're a ghost," he whispered. "Where did you come from?" She didn't answer, but her body tensed, like the question touched something deep inside her. He didn't press. That night, Dax sat at the door of the shelter, watching the moon's rise. He could feel her watching him from inside. He spoke softly. "Don't know what they did to you, but I know you don't deserve to be treated like a thing." A pause. "I didn't buy you. I just didn't want you left behind." Behind him, he heard the faintest whisper, so quiet he thought he imagined it, but he turned and saw her lips move. Just one word. Dax didn't speak right. "Away." He stood slowly and walked toward her. Her eyes were wide, like she didn't mean to say it, but he smiled gently. "Because you matter," he said. "Even if they didn't see it, I did." Dax didn't expect her to talk again. That one whisper, "Why?" is the only word she had spoken in days. Since then, silence returned, heavy, unbreakable. But her eyes were changing at first. They were like empty glass, no light, no feeling now. They watched. They followed his movements. Sometimes when he spoke, her head tilted. Sometimes her fingers moved slightly, like she wanted to answer, but didn't know how. She was still afraid. But fear wasn't the only thing left inside her now. Something else had returned: curiosity. One afternoon, Dax was fixing an old solar panel outside his shelter. It was broken, like everything on this side of the moon. But he worked carefully. As he tightened a rusted bolt, he felt a presence behind him. He turned slowly. She was standing there, barefoot again, wrapped in his coat, holding something. It was a cracked water filter. She held it out toward him with both hands. He blinked. "Where did you find this?" She pointed toward the back of the shelter. Her hand was shaking. You went through the scrap pile?" She nodded, just once. A small nod. But to Dax, it was like a shout. He took the filter and smiled. "This is good. I can fix it. Might even get clean water again." She watched his face, like she was studying it, searching for meaning in every line. Then, without a word, she turned and walked back inside. But before she reached the door, she paused and looked back at him. Just for a moment, then she was gone. That night, Dax stayed up. He had questions, too many. Who was she? She come from? Why did no scanner work on her? But more than questions, he had fear, because now he was starting to care, and that meant he could lose her. The next morning, he found her sitting near the heater. She had drawn something in the dust on the floor, simple shapes, circles, lines, stars. He sat beside her, not too close. "Is this your home?" She didn't answer, but she didn't erase the drawing either. He pointed to a spiral in the center. "Is that where you lived?" A long pause, then a soft nod. "Where is it?" She picked up a piece of coal from the ground and added to the drawing a crack, a broken symbol, something ruined, gone, destroyed. Dax's voice dropped. "You're the only one left." Her fingers tightened around the coal. Then, slowly, she let it fall. That night it rained ash from the upper atmosphere. The moon had toxic clouds that dropped burned flakes when the wind shifted. They stayed inside. The heater buzzed quietly. She sat across from him, legs folded, her eyes shining in the dim light. Dax broke a protein bar in half and handed her a piece. She took it carefully this time. She didn't eat like a scared animal. She ate slowly, calmly, as if she knew she was safe. Dax decided to speak. "You don't have to tell me your name, but I want to give you one." She looked up. He smiled. "Not as an owner, not as someone who bought you, just something to call you while you're here." He waited. She didn't move. So he whispered vaguely, "It means starlight." In an old Earth language, a pause then, a blink. Not rejection, not acceptance, just silence. But a different kind of silence. A peaceful one. Later that night, Dax was half asleep when he heard something. A sharp sound, like glass breaking. He jumped up, grabbed a light, and ran outside. Tracks in the dust. Small, fast-moving. Not hers. Someone had been there. He scanned the area, but no movement. Just the cold wind and silence. When he returned inside, she was awake. Her eyes wide, she pointed at the broken window. Dax nodded. Someone's watching. He looked at her dot and saw the fear return in her eyes. Not just fear for herself, fear for him. He knelt beside her. She stared at him. This time she did something new. She reached forward slowly and placed her hand over his, not shaking, not cold, steady. She didn't speak, but her eyes said everything. "Thank you. I believe you. I'm still scared, but I'm not alone now." Outside, someone watched through a scope from the far cliff, silent and hidden. A shadow-shaped figure whispered into a "Come, she's alive," confirmed the lost royal is with a human. A crackling voice replied, "Good. Place the bounty. Alive or dead. Bring her in." Asterisk, the next day, the sky didn't look right. Dax noticed it the moment he stepped out. The ash clouds had thinned, but the air felt heavy, to still, like something was watching from above. Inside the shelter, Vayli, the alien girl, sat quietly, tracing shapes in the dust again. She didn't smile, but something was different. Her shoulders were straighter. Her hands calmer. She was starting to live again. Dax tried to stay calm too. But last night's tracks were still fresh in his mind. Someone had been near, watching them. And now his instincts were screaming, so he went to the nearby junk traders. Carefully, quietly, he needed answers. Old Rick, a wine-eyed scavenger, was always listening to the underground talk. Dax found him chewing dried fungus and watching the sky. "I need information," Dax said. Rick didn't even blink. "Everyone does." Dax leaned close. "About a girl, pale skin, silver hair, violet eyes." Rick froze. "You've seen the bounty," Dax guessed. Rick nodded slowly, then took out a crumpled flyer from his pocket. It was holographic, flickering. There she was, Vayli's face, but not like she looked now. The picture showed her in a glowing white suit with a royal crest on. Her shoulder, she looked powerful, but her eyes were just as sad. High-value target. Stolen bloodline minus 500,000 credits. Alive preferred. Dead accepted. Dax's blood ran cold. "They think she's a traitor," Rick whispered. "A runaway. She vanished during the fall of the Lasari Empire. Whole star systems fell after that. Some say she's the last of the royal blood." Dax grabbed the flyer. "Who placed the bounty?" Rick glanced around, not sure. Could be slavers, could be rebel kings, could be her own people. "But I'll tell you this, friend. If they find her with you, you're dead too." Dax ran back to the shelter, but something was wrong. The door was open. He pulled out a rusted metal rod from his belt and entered, heart pounding inside. Vayli was gone. The blanket lay on the ground, tossed aside. The heater was knocked over. Then he heard a voice outside, a deep growl, speaking in a thick alien accent. She didn't scream much. "You sure this is the one?" Second voice answered. "Look at her. That hair. Those eyes. That's royalty. The scanner confirms it. Boss will pay double." Dax moved fast. He slipped around the side of the shelter, staying low. Two bounty hunters stood near a rust-covered crawler truck. One was huge, with metal armor and long tusks. The other was thin, snake-like. It's the stun stick. And between them, chained again, was Via Eli. Her face was blank, but her hands were trembling. Dax's stomach twisted. Not again. He couldn't let them take her. Not like before. He picked up a sharp metal plate from the junk pile. His hands were shaking, but his eyes stayed locked on her. Then she saw him. Just for a moment, and something changed in her face. She didn't look scared anymore. She looked angry. The large bounty hunter turned to his partner. "Go check the shelter. Make sure there's nothing valuable." Snakeface nodded and walked toward the entrance. But as he passed the corner, Dax moved. He slammed the metal plate into the side of the alien's head. The stun stick dropped. Dax grabbed it and rolled, heart pounding, vision red. The big hunter roared. "Hey!" Vayli took her chance. She kicked backward, hitting the giant in the knee. He roared and grabbed her hair, yanking hard, but she didn't scream. Dax ran forward with the stun stick and drove it into the giant's back. Sparks flew. The alien dropped to his knees. Dax pulled Vayli free and yelled, "Run!" Ow. They ran. Into the metal fields, a maze of broken towers, collapsed ships, and razor-sharp junk behind them. The hunter cursed and stumbled after them, but Vayli knew these paths better now. She led Dax through tight tunnels and rusted corridors. At last they found an old service hatch and slipped inside. Breathing hard, they collapsed behind a wall of iron sheets. Vayli looked at him, eyes wide. "You came back," she said. Dax laughed, breathless, bleeding. "Of course I did. I told you. You matter." She reached forward, this time not gently. She grabbed his shirt, pulled herself close, and whispered something in her own alien language. He didn't understand it, but her voice was soft, and her hand didn't let go. Far above, floating silently in orbit, a figure watched the chase through red lenses. "She's with the human now," the voice said. "She's starting to remember who she is." Reply came cold and sharp. "Then kill the human. Bring the girl home." The hideout was dark and cold. Bailey sat in the corner, her knees pulled to her chest. But this time, she was not chained. She wasn't a prisoner anymore. Still, old fears crawled through her mind. The bounty hunters were getting smarter. The danger was growing fast. And now she knew something even worse. They weren't chasing her for a reward. They were chasing her for what she was. A name echoed in her thoughts, half-remembered. Feared. Vaelith, Saren Lysari. Last daughter of a fallen star kingdom. She had buried that name long ago. Buried it when they killed her family. Buried it when she was locked in a cage and traded like garbage. But now, it was waking up again. Dax was outside the hideout, building traps from wires and scrap. He moved slowly, one hand pressed to his ribs. He hadn't told her how bad the wound was. A deep gash from the bounty hunter's blade is hidden under his shirt. He didn't want her to worry, but he was getting weaker. Each breath felt heavier. That night, Bailey walked outside. The sky above was deep purple, full of dust and dead stars. She found Dax sitting on a rock holding a broken circuit board and pretending to fix it. His hands were shaking. "You're hurt," she said quietly. He smiled like it didn't matter. "I've had worse." She sat beside him. "You lied." He looked at her. "About what?" "You said I was safe?" His smile faded. "I said I'd try to keep you safe," he replied. "But the truth is, I'm just a scavenger. No weapons, no army, just some hope and junk." A pause. "Hope is enough," she said softly. Dax chuckled. "Is it?" She turned to face him. "It was enough to pull me from the dark." Later that night, he collapsed. She caught him before he hit the ground. His face was pale, lips dry. The wound had reopened. Blood soaked through his shirt. It was burning with fever. She dragged him back inside, shaking, afraid. She had seen death before, many times. But this time felt different. This time, she cared. She tore cloth into strips and pressed it against the wound. She boiled water. She stayed beside him all night, whispering words in her own language, songs she thought she had forgotten. By morning, his fever broke, but he was still weak. Barely speaking, she held his hand the whole time in her mind. Something snapped awake. She remembered standing in golden halls. She remembered holding a glowing orb, a gift from her mother. Power sealed inside her bloodline. She was taught never to use it unless she had nothing left now. She had nothing. Except one thing, Dax. She walked out into the open air and raised her hand toward the sky from her palm. Soft white energy began to glow, not fire, not lightning. But memory, a signal, a message sent across stars. "I'm not running anymore," she whispered. "You want me? Come. But if you touch him, I'll burn the sky." In orbit above, a warship picked up her signal. The commander smiled. "She's awake. Full blood. Power unlocked." A soldier stepped forward. "Do we proceed with capture?" The commander shook his head. "No. Now we crush the human first. Let her watch. Then she'll come quietly." Back on the ground, Dax woke. Bailey was beside him, her eyes glowing faintly. "What did you do?" he asked, voice rough. "I warned them." Dax sat up slowly. Groaning, warned who? Everyone. He looked at her not like she was a scared girl anymore. Now she looked like something else. A queen. A weapon. A star reborn. He took her hand. "You didn't have to do that." She stared at him. "You bled for me. You stayed when I couldn't speak. You fed me when I was called worthless. You're the only reason I'm alive." A pause. "I will not let them take you." At that moment, the ground shook, far in the distance. The dust rose. Ships were coming. Big ones. Fast. VA. Eli stood, no chains on her now, no silence. She looked at the sky and whispered, "Let them come." Her eyes burned bright. Her hair floated with energy. Her skin shimmered like stardust. Dax tried to rise, but she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest. This time I protect you." Asterisk, the ground trembled under Dax's shelter as engines roared. Overhead, Vayli stood outside, her silver hair lifting slightly in the wind, glowing threads of light dancing along her skin. The ancient power inside her, once sealed and sleeping, now whispered through her bones like fire under ice. In the distance, dark ships dropped from the clouds. 3 black vessels, no markings, no warnings. Only war. She didn't run. Not this time. Inside, Dax tried to stand. His wounds still ached, his strength half gone. But when he looked out through the cracked window and saw her standing tall in front of the rising dust, he froze. She wasn't the same silent girl he carried from the market. She was something. More, she was light wrapped in flesh, fragile, yes, but burning now, he whispered Vayli. The first hunter dropped from the ship, heavy armor, sharp claws, and glowing red eyes. He stomped forward, confident, ready to capture her again. Vayli lifted her hand. She didn't shout. She didn't move her feet. She simply opened her palm. A wave of light exploded from her skin, not hot like fire, but sharp like memory. Deep, like sorrow, it hit the hunter full in the chest. He flew back 10 meters, armor cracked. Groaning, the other hunters hesitated. She didn't. Dax crawled to the doorway, gripping the frame. "You don't have to fight them all," he said, breathless. Vayli looked over her shoulder. For the first time, she smiled. "I'm not fighting for me," she said softly. "I'm fighting for us." But power had a price. The more she used it, the more her body trembled. Her knees wobbled. Her breaths grew shallow. The bloodline energy inside her was ancient, a last weapon of a lost kingdom. But it was not endless. She was buying time, not victory. Dax saw it. He stood. And once, he didn't think about surviving. He thought about saving her. He ran to the side storage bin, kicked it open, pulled out a fusion torch, unstable, old, and likely deadly. He rewired the coil with shaking fingers and stuffed it into his belt. If she was going to stand for him, he'd do the same. Meanwhile, Vayli faced down the second wave of hunters. They had split up, circling her. One moved fast, too fast. He struck from behind, a stun rod hitting her shoulder. She cried out, falling to one knee. Pain shot through her chest. Her energy flickered. The hunter raised the weapon again, ready to strike. Then a roar filled the air. Dax slammed the fusion torch into the hunter's back. It burst in sparks, throwing both of them backward. Torch exploded. Blinding light filling the junkyard. Metal flew, dust rose, and for one moment, silence, when Vayli opened her eyes. She saw Dax lying in the dirt, bleeding again, face bruised. She crawled toward him. No, please. His eyes fluttered. "Still, here." She held his hand with both of hers, shaking. "You saved me," she whispered. He coughed weakly. "We save each other, remember." She leaned down, touching her forehead to his. "I won't let you die." Then she stood, slowly, painfully. Her body shimmered brighter than ever before. Her markings glowed like fire runes. Her hair lifted like starlight, caught in wind. And then she screamed. Not in fear, not in pain, in rage. A wave of energy blasted from her body, a final burst. The hunters were knocked to the ground. Ships were pushed back by invisible force. The sky itself seemed to pulse with her cry. And then silence returned. Vayli collapsed beside Dax. Smoke curled around them. The ships were retreating, damaged, burning. The bounty had failed. But Vayli didn't care. She looked into Dax's eyes, both of them barely conscious. Bodies broken but alive. "You didn't give up on me," she whispered. "Even when I had nothing." He reached for her hand, voice faint. "You are not nothing." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I was sold for fruit," she whispered. "You're worth galaxies," he replied, "and they know it now." The firelight from the broken torch danced. Across their faces, ash fell like snow, and in that quiet space between survival and death, they held each other. Not as rescuer and rescued, not as alien and human, but as two broken souls who found something sacred in a world that had forgotten kindness. Smoke still floated in the cold air, rising from the wreckage of fallen ships. Vayli opened her eyes slowly. Her body was weak, her strength nearly gone. Adored. She was lying beside Dax under a collapsed sheet of metal they had dragged over themselves. For cover, he was still breathing, barely, but alive. She had used every last spark of her power to protect him, and now? They were free, but not safe. Not yet. Hours passed. Dax stirred first. "Hey," he whispered, voice dry, eyes barely open. Vayli turned to him, her skin pale. The glow in her veins now faint like dying stars. "You should have run," she whispered. He gave a slow smile. "And leave you behind. Not a chance." She placed a hand over his heart. It was still beating, slow, steady. "I thought I had nothing left," she said softly. "But you became my reason to fight." A signal beacon blinked on the horizon. One of the enemy ships broken, but still broadcasting. Dax noticed it. "They'll come again." Vayli nodded. "Yes, and more will follow. We can't keep running," he added. Vayli looked away. "You have a choice now," he said. "You can disappear again, or you can rise." She didn't answer at first, but then she stood, slow, shaky, and walked to the broken ship. Inside, the cockpit sparks flickered. The console was cracked, but one command still worked. A long-range distress call. She placed her palm on the sensor. A blue light scanned her blood. Then the console came alive. Royal ID confirmed Princess Valith Saren Lyseri. Broadcast. Message or request rescue. She stared at the screen, then turned away. Back outside, Dax leaned against the wall, watching her. "You're royalty," he said. "I was," she replied. "Long ago you still are," he said, "not because of blood, but because of what you did." Vayli knelt beside him. "You gave me something no empire ever could," she whispered. "What's that?" She smiled, tired but warm. "Name without a price." Soft hum echoed in the sky. A new ship was approaching, not a hunter, but a civilian scout. It had picked up the beacon from orbit. Neutral colors, no weapons. It hovered above the ruins and slowly landed. Dax tensed. "You sure about this?" Billy nodded. Two figures stepped out, diplomats in silver robes. One carried a medkit. Other, a scanner. They approached carefully. "We received your signal," the older one said. "Are you truly Princess Valith?" Vayli stood tall. "I was, but not anymore." They looked confused. She gestured toward Dax. "This man saved me, not your armies, not your codes. Him." Dax tried to stand, but fell to one knee. The diplomats rushed forward to help him. "We can offer medical care," one said. "Protection, transport, anything you ask." Vayli looked at Dax, then back at them. "Then I ask for one thing. Name it. I want him free." His name. Cleared, no price on his head, no trackers, nothing. "He is mine, and I choose him." The diplomats bowed. "It is done." Dax was placed in a healing pod. The machine hissed gently as light bathed his wounds. Vayli stayed beside him the whole time as he healed. She began to write stories, records, truths the galaxy had forgotten. She spoke about slavery, black markets, the hunted. She used her voice for those who had none. People listened because she had been broken too and rose anyway. Weeks later, on a quiet planet near a golden lake, Vayli and Dax walked together. No more hiding. No more running. "Do you miss your crown?" Dax asked. One evening, Vayli smiled. "No, I found something better." "What?" "A man who saw value in me when I couldn't see it myself." She took his hand. "I was sold. For rotten fruit," she whispered. He turned to her. "And now," brighter, Now I know I was never for sale. Far across the stars, markets crumbled, slavers fled, and whispers spread of the royal girl who returned not as a queen, but as a voice for the lost, and beside her always was the one human who refused to look away.